Hey guys, this year I set myself the goal to read 150 books. It sounds crazy, but in 2020 I read a grand total of 142 books. And I thought that setting my goal to 150 this year was just challenging enough for me to reach it. It sounds crazy, but since I read so much in 2020, I thought I would be able to keep that rhythm going in 2021. But what I wasn't expecting is the massive reading slump that hit me in January. I barely read anything, and now I am super behind on my Goodreads reading challenge. So I thought that this weekend I would try to get back on track. I am finally out of that reading slump. I think it's been like a week and I've been reading pretty steadily, so I think it's fair to say that I am out of the slump, which is amazing because, to be honest, I'm super behind and it's stressing me out. So this weekend we're going to be attempting to catch up on the Goodreads challenge. I am very much behind. I have 6 books to read in order to get back on track, I believe, so we'll see if that actually ends up happening. But to be fair, I am in the middle of a lot of books right now. There are books that have been on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads for a while, and I thought that I would finally try to finish them just so that we can, clear the air and start fresh. So this is what we're going to be doing this weekend, trying to read as much as I can. I might pick new books up as well. It doesn't have to be stuff that is on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads, even though for some of them I'm almost done with them, so I think it would be a good idea to try to finish them this weekend. So the first book that I am going to be reading is Learn My Lesson by Katee Robert. I started reading it last week and I wasn't really vibing with it, but I decided to pick it back up again this morning as part of this challenge, and now I'm almost done with it. I am 70% through, if I remember right, and I'm almost done. So we're gonna try to finish this one first because this is the one that I have the less amount of pages to read of, and then we'll see where the weekend takes us. Alright, so I have finished the first book. So I finished reading Learn My Lesson by Katee Robert, and I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I did like it, but I did feel like it was a little too heavy on the sex scenes and not enough plot and character development. Don't get me wrong, Katee Robert writes sex scenes like no other, and like diving into this one I was expecting it because this is a sequel to Desperate Measures, and the first book took me completely by surprise because it was really dark romance and like BDSM and stuff, which I was not expecting. So I knew what I was getting myself into with the sequel, but still I kind of craved a little bit more character development and story arc, like storytelling, than what we got. I feel like especially towards the end it was just one sex scene after the other and it kind of got repetitive and a little bit boring. It got to a point where I just was like, okay, can we move on to something else? I just want something else than smut. But overall, I enjoyed it enough to want to continue with the series, and I'm really excited about the next one because it follows Tink and Hook, and they are 2 of like the characters that I want to see together the most. Like they kind of hate each other, so it's gonna be like an A2 love romance. So I don't know, I'm excited to see how this one will play out. Alright, so it's now much later. It is about 9 p.m. and I have finished my second book, which was Book Scavenger by Jennifer Chambliss Bergman. So I started reading this during Believe-a-thon back in November, and back then I put it down because I just was not in the mood for it, and I picked it back up again, and I quite honestly did not enjoy this. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It was so disappointing and it makes me super sad because I wanted to love this. It had all of my buzzwords. I mean, books about books, puzzles and games, scavenger hunts, and in the end it just did not live up to my expectations. It felt kind of flat. I didn't feel anything while reading it. It should have been like a thrilling adventure, but I honestly didn't care about the outcome of the book. I probably should have DNF'd it, but I kept thinking that it would pick up and that I would end up loving it, or at least like enjoying it more than I did, and it never did. Like even in the end with the climax, I thought it would be like this thrilling adventure and I just never really reached that peak for me. Like I never really cared about what happened. So unfortunately this is getting a 2 out of 5 stars for me. It just was not made for me. So now it will be time for me to pick my next read, and quite frankly I don't really know what I want to read next. I have a couple more books on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads that I could pick up, but to be honest I'm not in the mood really to read any of them. So we'll think about it. Hey, so it's about 3 p.m. and I kind of wanted to update you guys because I feel like I haven't really talked to you today. So last night I ended up taste testing 3 different books. I did like a mini try a chapter tag and I picked 3 books that I was interested in and that could be potential contenders for today's book, and I ended up choosing A Castle in the Clouds by Kristen Gia. So this is about my character Sophie, who works as an intern in this luxurious hotel in the Swiss Alps. And the book starts off and it is kind of slow moving because it's basically just following Sophie in her day-to-day life and her tasks as an intern at this hotel. But as the book goes on, there's kind of this mystery that starts unfolding and you realize that there's something more going on. At this point in the book, I'm currently on page 217, actually no, 214, sorry, and we don't know what is actually happening. There's something more than meets the eye, but we are not totally sure of what is happening. So I'm quite curious to see where things will go. I have about 100 pages left to read before I'm done with it, and I'm having such a great time. It is such a lovely read. I love the characters, I love the setting, I love books that are set in hotels. You really get to know like the guests and just like the ins and outs of this place, and I'm really enjoying it so far.